2005.
Ready? Good evening and welcome back. My name's Matthew McLaughlin.
And I'm Daniel Sandner.
And I'm Garrett Kiesel.
And we have some notes for
Revenge of the Sith.
the 20th anniversary release just happened. As far as I understand it, it was a one-day release, right?
Just today, I guess.
Was it actually? Really?
I think that's what Daniel was saying.
Well, your ticket searches prove that too.
That's true. At least for in our region. I don't know about other theaters, but for Allen Theaters here in Durango, it was today only.
Isn't that what Hayden Christensen said in his little
Spiel
thing
before
at the beginning? He said the one day only, right?
Did
Am
he?
I crazy or did?
I didn't pay attention. I thought it was maybe a week long thing, but
That's what I was figuring
I thought he
too.
said one day, but I mean that would make sense for the theater. I don't
Maybe.
know. Well, 20th anniversary. We're here to celebrate.
So this was a personal thing for me because when this movie came out, I wanted to go see it in theaters. Disney hadn't bought Lucasfilm yet, and we all thought that this was going to be the last Star Wars movie ever. And I loved the Star Wars movies as a kid. I got all the Legos when I was a kid leading up to this movie, and I wasn't allowed to go see it in theaters. And I was the angriest 7-year-old
You couldn't see
imaginable.
crispy Hayden Christensen?
What are you calling him, crispy?
Because that's the scariest part of the movie, when he gets all crispy, you know?
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense.
He
okay.
riles around on the ground, just
I wasn't
torched.
thinking about it from the
Thematic
the
standpoint.
Yeah, from the lava perspective. No, I thought you were meaning it in a different
No,
way.
no.
Okay, all
I
right.
meant physically crispy.
Yeah, yes,
Like
torched.
burnt,
Yeah,
torched. like he did, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so this is
I had no idea.
It's a 20-year circle that just got completed tonight.
Wow.
Never got to see it in theaters. Thought I would never see a good Star Wars movie in theaters. And so far, that's only been Rogue One and tonight. So it was great. Daniel and I, we recently watched Pride and Prejudice, which happens to be another 20th anniversary release. So
It's because
2000.
there's no good movies out.
Yeah.
Where
that
are
was-
the new good movies?
That was in
That
theaters.
was in theaters? Wow,
Yeah.
I had no idea. Okay.
2005 just was, I guess,
The year.
bangers.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it was really cool. I was looking forward to because Pride and Prejudice, I really enjoyed. That review, you'll see me just have a happy face the entire podcast.
Unlike Mr. Darcy.
True.
Have you seen Pride and Prejudice?
I haven't.
Unlike Mr. Darcy.
And this movie, I was figuring, we saw one with great cinematography and everything. This is a movie for the spectacle. If there was one to see that you can't see on theaters ever again, but you have the opportunity to do so, a spectacle like this, I figured would be worth it. And at least for me, it so was. I really, really enjoyed watching this on the big screen.
I think Star Wars, just in general, as a whole, is an experience you just have to have in the theaters. Overall.
I think so too. I even think back to when we all saw the premiere of Episode 7 and everything. That is all good. Go take
All right,
that.
get it. Get phone call. He will be back soon.
Yep. That was Garrett, ladies and gentlemen. So anyway, when we all saw the premiere of Episode 7 in theaters.
Oh, it was spectacle.
That
We
was so
dressed
much
up.
fun.
501st Legion was there. It was great.
Yeah.
So good.
100%. It was a great time. And this wasn't exactly the same energy because it's a 20-year-old movie.
Right.
But I had a lot of fun, and the theater was packed. I mean, when I bought the tickets, there were 8 seats left, and we took 3 of them, so there were only 5
And
remaining.
we were right up in B row, looking up catty corner.
We were. That was probably the only...
That was the downside.
That was the downside,
Being
is
like-
that we found out about this just a little bit too late. Because when I saw the advertising, I saw it as from, was it Regent? What's that other...
Regal.
Regal, that one.
Okay.
I'd seen Regal's advertisements for this, but I had no idea our local Allen Theaters was doing it. So when I saw it today, and we're like, oh, we got to do the podcast. It was like, let's go.
Today, let's do it. Yeah.
And luckily there were 3 seats remaining, and it was the last group of 3. So we were down in B, we were looking up, so everything was kind of skewed, but it was still a good time.
We knew the gist, what was going on. No, I think you're absolutely right with the spectacle side. There are very few movies that, especially nowadays, where we're kind of in this oversaturated market of IMAX, and we're like everything has to be as big as it can be, and you're like, dude, this is not the type of movie that needs to be big. But in the case of Star Wars, in the case of this franchise in general, it's kind of what it was meant for. And I don't remember if it necessarily had, I'm sure it released in IMAX inevitably, not as IMAX, but in IMAX. But seeing it on a larger form factor screen today is always fun.
Yeah,
So.
it really was. This movie, I was talking to you in the car just a little bit, but this movie really felt like you got to give something up when it comes to Star Wars, I feel like. The more that I watch Star Wars, the more I change as a person as I get older, the more I realize that they're not perfect movies. There's the childhood, like, oh, it's absolutely perfect, nothing can go wrong with it. But then when you sit down and watch a movie like this, I was realizing there are definitely flaws. It's probably a 20-minute chunk where it's just like you're kind of just getting through some writing. The acting's not amazing at all.
Writing.
And for me, my stance on Revenge of the Sith, seeing it in theaters, is, especially after the whole superhero debacles, after Endgame, post Endgame, I'll take the trade-off. Mm-hmm. I would take the trade-off to have a George Lucas style world builder who commits to a style, who sticks with it, who has an overarching plan and executes that plan, even though there's a lot of pitfalls within it. I would rather have a better experience than a technically perfect CGI-Fest. And I think that can lead into another topic, which is, as we understand the term CGI-Fest, CGI slop these days, it is the Marvel big CGI battle with nobody you care about. And yeah, technically speaking, it's perfect. And they have the ray scattering and the subsurface scattering, and it all looks gorgeous, technically speaking. But there's nothing that you care about happening on screen. And with this movie, it was absolutely, definitively a CGI fest. There's no way to get around it. But, at least for me, I was enjoying every single one of those shots. The big, gigantic cityscapes, the huge space battles, everything that you can't do in the real world and you have to do in CGI felt purposeful in this movie. And I think that's what's missing from modern CGI fests.
Fair enough. Garrett and I were talking a little bit about this, that this is the first time we've touched base with this movie in probably 15 years. And that the hardest part for us was taking off those nostalgia glasses. That, we remember this movie in such high regard because of the fights, the lava fight scene. And you think about, the Order 66 moment, the big moments, the moments that are blow your mind, not only as a kid, but even sometimes as an adult. And we were talking a little bit afterwards about now watching that with the fresher perspective that we have, obviously knowing what's going to happen, and then being able to be a little bit pickier. And while Revenge of the Sith is still easily my favorite of the prequels, it's still easily the best of the prequels. You were talking about 20 minutes. For me, it was more like an hour and a half of the entire first half of the movie. He's just so badly written. But to George Lucas's credit,
Hayden Christensen's character? Anakin?
No, I mean everyone.
Everybody.
Like, and I get it. It kind of goes hand in hand with the fact that it's a space opera, and it's always been pretty clunkily written. At the very least, they're consistent across all the movies. Like, they're all pretty clunky. But just the one-liners and the quips and the at one point where Hayden Christensen just points out something that's obviously happening. He's like, "That's happening, isn't it?" And you're like, for the slower members of the audience. Things like that, where the writing is just really dull and really not even overly simple, but just it's almost like it's trying too hard and falling flat. But what I do admire about George Lucas is he's a lot like Robert Zemeckis in my mind, where he's really good at pushing the limit on concepts, on technologies, even at the behest of poor scripts that, they do the job, they get it through. Like, it's not to say that I didn't understand what was going on. Could it have been better? Sure. Was it still fine for what it was? Absolutely. And you go in there because, when the movie came out in 2005, it was a day to go to the theater. It was the event of the day to go to the theater and to see something you've never seen before. And it's absolutely delivered in every Star Wars movie that way. I would argue a little bit against the CGI Fest thing because George Lucas is notorious for unnecessarily putting in random CGI stuff in his movies. And I was actually half expecting in this movie to see some random cutscene or character that he did for the, 20th anniversary edition, like what he did for the 10th anniversary edition, like what he did for the director's cut. Like
yeah,
what he did
I agree
for the re-release.
that those sucked. Those were terrible decisions.
And so I was waiting for that, but it didn't. It was as I remembered it, at least. But I don't know. The CGI Fest brings up a good point to kind of follow that train. And it's that if you think about what was after this? I think the first Marvel movie was 2008, right? Iron Man? The
Yep.
first new, not Hulk, not
MCU.
That. Correct.
2008 Iron Man.
Correct. And it took them quite a while to get to the CG schlock phase. And it makes me wonder if they were actually trying to capitalize on the magic that a movie like this brings, that you're going to the theater for the spectacle at the behest of a script that's not very well developed or characters that aren't very well developed. And so I don't know if I'd wager that that's entirely a good thing, but it's interesting to see where they maybe got it from. If it was from something like Star Wars hype, the world building that existed there, if that was drawn as some inspiration to, take from, because it took a couple movies for them to get there, Marvel at least. So I'm curious to know kind of how that actually was impacted, if Star Wars was a major impact on the MCU in terms of, the scale and the spectacle and why. Mm-hmm. You spoke a little bit about the impact of that as well. And I don't know. I do have plenty of qualms with Marvel movies, don't get me wrong. But I do think the first phase of the MCU was good and tight. And generally speaking, the spectacle was good. And same with this. I realized that watching this one, just due to the fact that it was made in 2005, I had a harder time following what was going on in the spectacle moments outside of the Mustafar fight, where that one is just so blatantly iconic that was just so much fun to watch. But like, I especially noticed it when Qui-Gon was trying to Obi-Wan, thank you. Sorry, I'm in the wrong movie here. When Obi-Wan was in the place that Grievous was hiding, and there was the fight kind of ensuing there, and you're kind of like, there's a lot going on here. So I don't know. I all that to say, like, I don't know if I share that same sentiment as you, but I see what you're going for.
Yeah, for me, the difference is that this is something where even if it might be a little bit hard to follow because of the editing, there is a distinctness to everything that's happening. I mean, you remember that Grievous drives that crazy one-wheeled thing with four legs. You remember that. Can you remember what any Marvel character drove in or anything like that? What I'm getting at is that the details are there that distinguish absolutely everything. And that's what I appreciate, and that's where I say I'll take the trade-off. Because, yeah, technically speaking, there are definitely flaws with the CGI itself, but the dedication to making individual characters, individual ships, individual settings, and having it all feel like it's a cohesive world, even though everything's different, it's so much better. It is such a better way of doing filmmaking than we have to put this specific shape on every single person's suit. And that's what Marvel got to. Every suit used to be unique, and then it just isn't anymore. And somehow, all throughout the original Star Wars and the prequels, and I would argue even through Rogue One, there were distinct styles. There was evolution of technology throughout all the movies. And that's what's missing from Marvel. That's what I would say. It all just got it had to be so conglomerized. It all had to come together and look the same.
Merchandisable.
To be merchandisable, to be easily replicated between all of their different, all the different CGI artists. I'm sure that's part of what happened with Marvel. But yeah, I really prefer the ship with the scratches built in and how they all interact and how careful everything was shot. I was shocked at how, when something's on a big screen, you can point and nitpick things pretty easily and you can find the flaws real easily. Overall, I was very impressed that this movie was able to incorporate these characters, even with like some ragdolls, and it still worked. I'm not going to say it's perfect because that's just false.
Yeah. For 2005, it held up quite well on a big screen.
It did. For
outside
that much,
of the green screen comps and some of them,
like
Mace Windu in front of the freaking hall or them on the ledge, and you're just like, oh, this is bad. But like the CG was still good.
It was, and the fact that they're able to do that in 2005, and then you look at anything basically right now as far as big budget blockbuster style movies, and it's just not there. Everybody's thought about it, like even going back to Jurassic Park days. What happened? Like, we had this amazing CGI and this intentionality and all these different things that happened. And for me, it really came to light here watching the 20th anniversary release of Revenge of the Sith, that it used to be really good, that people put their heart into it. The artistry was there, and it just isn't there anymore.
I think that's what Marvel movies suffer from, especially when you bring that up, is it's not necessarily a lack of artistry, it's a lack of time to be artistic or a lack of freedom for VFX artists to be artistic. And so you have movies that are pushed out way fast and are more or less underdeveloped, developed differently. Whereas in this one, like clearly, maybe it's not a question of time so much, but where Lucas had the time remote, to have characters added in randomly in CG. Like there was a chance to fiddle that you just wouldn't see with a Marvel movie. There's such a strict release schedule that where this one, because the first one was released in 2001.
I'm pretty sure it's 2001.
I think they did these ones, they shot them back to back to back. Between 2001 and 2005 for three I don't know how much the budget was on these, but probably 150 million or something, 100 million. To do that and to have them actually iterate on each other to where you've developed your pipeline for the first movie, and by the third movie, it's polished. And so, doing a lightsaber fight is small pennies. You can now do art because you've developed your pipeline, you've got it through, and you knew the fan base was there. Granted, it's divisive on these three, but all in all, there's a fan base still for the prequels. So I think it just was kind of a winning combo. You give the people what they want, and you do it with artistry, and it works. Writing's still crap, but the rest is good. I'm standing by that. George Lucas has never been a good writer. So
first note, writing was bad.
yes, that is my note for any. Frankly, any Star Wars movie, but especially the prequels.
I want to separate something because I think specifically the dialogue writing, the story writing, as far as like how the story progresses and what happens, and the themes of betrayal.
What
and
is there other
deception.
than dialogue? Are you just talking about the themes, writing the themes?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Writing the story and writing the dialogue that goes through the story. I just wanted to separate those.
So the screenplay is good, but the dialogue within the screenplay is bad.
Bingo.
Okay.
That's what I would say.
That's fair. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was sitting there and I was surprised that there were times where the emotion actually hit me.
It does later in the movie.
It really does.
When it boils, it gets good. But all of the government schlock at the beginning, it's not even because it's government stuff. It is just between that and the love story between him and Padme, it's just so flat. And we know that basically everybody here can act. Really, the verdict is out on Hayden Christensen because I've never seen him in in many other things. But everyone else are world-renowned actors. And so you're like, if magic's going to happen, it's going to happen with them. It happens kind of, but the writing is just so clunky. It's not a detriment to the movie. At the end of the day, it's one of those, the fact that you could chalk it up to, well, it is essentially, it's called a space opera for a reason. It's kind of cheesy. It's whimsical. It's something that you can feel okay suspending your disbelief in, and that you don't really have to nitpick. It's sort of like how I could nitpick to High Heaven, the opening battle sequence where there's smoke clouds in space, and then there's times where Obi-Wan gets slopped around in his ship, and other times where he doesn't, and there's the elevator comes to a stop, but he doesn't slam, but he does when it starts, and there's all these just weird consistency things, and of course questions of space, but who cares? It's a whimsical space movie that is about people in funny robes talking about something that no one can see that's dictating the lives of good and bad. It's all good. Mm-hmm. The writing's still weird, but it's fine. That's my tirade. That's it. I'm done.
Let's talk about how we already mentioned the artistry. Something else that goes into that is that they were able to get the choreography on especially the lightsaber battles amazing. In my opinion, the only bad lightsaber battle was realistically when they went to arrest the Chancellor. That lightsaber battle's not that great. But all the other ones, how much training Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen went through, you can see their physicality and their training on screen. I think the best lightsaber battles are in this movie. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's anything that comes close to it.
Phenomenal.
That's
amazing. The one I always remember from this movie was him pulling out the 4 sabers and just going ham at it.
The idea to have his wrist spin and everything, intimidation factor. Mm-hmm. You can tell he's also not trained. He's not a Jedi. He's not Sith. He's just had a little bit of sword training, and that's about it. Mm-hmm. And he's creative,
Exactly. I think that I still really admire the Darth Maul fight. However,
that was amazing too.
The downside of that is you have Ewan McGregor just stuck in this force field thing while freaking Qui-Gon is there fighting him, and then all of but his fight's dope just because he's such a great physical presence. But in this one, it has so many amazing spectacle moments where, I mean, the final fight scene is iconic for so many reasons. And even today, watching it on the big screen, like I was dozing a little in the middle, not gonna lie. But the end, I'm like, no, I gotta be awake for this, because it was just as it was remembered. Like, it's super intense, super spectacle driven, almost pretty moment between these two, and then it really hits home with the minimal dialogue that they put in there. You're right. The one with Palpatine and Windu is kind of but I mean, I realized that the ones that were weakest were between, so you had the one with Palpatine, and you had the one with Christopher Lee with Dooku, and neither one of them could even come close to doing their own stuff. So I was telling you about the total head like CG head replacement of Dooku. Wow, this is hard. Of Dooku at the beginning, because you're like, of course Christopher Lee can't do any of that. And so like that one, I remembered when we saw it this time, just being like, this is kind of underwhelming. And then when I see that, I'm like, oh, I'm taken out of that. And then same with that one too. Like, it was kind of a not quite the same, but similar. You know, not quite as crazy.
Yeah, and that's something where I wouldn't mind talking about this compared to modern Star Wars, which of course is more influenced by Marvel than it was original Star Wars, in my opinion. The lightsaber fights in modern Star Wars absolutely suck. They do. They're worse than the original trilogy. And the original trilogy,
are bad.
They're not very good. They're not that
so
amazing.
Bad.
And you go from prequels to the sequels, and I don't know what they did. It's just they didn't train anybody, or the training that they went through, they weren't as dedicated as Ewan. And
they were just trying to shake it up, but they didn't do it.
They just didn't do it. The villains aren't intimidating. The main characters are not that skilled, or any skill that they get is not earned.
Yeah.
Everything in this movie, from the screenplay, makes sense to me.
It makes sense, yeah.
You can follow it. It makes sense. What's going on happens.
Yeah.
The betrayal, the love story exists. But, yeah, that's all just missing from these new ones. These new movies. There's a reason why everybody kind of hates them.
Talking back to the lightsaber, though, I will say there's one lightsaber scene. Maybe it was the moment, totally possible, in not Last Jedi, the first one.
Force Awakens.
Thank you, that one. Freaking hell. Where it was the first time that Rey and Adam Driver's character got together in the forest in that snowy scene. And I remember, maybe it was in the moment because it was a new, fresh take on lightsaber stuff. It was very, very high fidelity and everything too. I kind of enjoyed it, and even now from what I remember it thinking back, I kind of enjoyed it because it had a little bit of variation in pacing. Not to say when they actually did the fighting it was any good, but I liked the moments where they actually got tired and they actually felt the pain of, I think his leg got sliced or it was something, and so he was like trying to keep feeling in his leg or whatever. He's like smacking his leg. It's interesting. But I liked the pacing of it a little bit, just as a fresh take from something like this. Because you think about their opening fight when they crash onto the big ship and they're just slapping, going through droids. And then at the end when they're fighting on Mustafar, and it's constant. The entire time they're just smacking each other. And so to have the fatigue kick in a little bit, I kind of liked. It was different. That's the one exception. I will kick back on that. Every other movie, I don't even remember lightsaber fights, so clearly they didn't mean anything. But that one sticks in my mind.
Yeah,
maybe it was the pretty colors of the darkness and the like melting snow and the steam and stuff. But like
the setting was awesome. But yeah, it's just the fact that in The Force Awakens, that scene could have been so much better if the rest of them had followed through.
Oh, totally.
If there was actually a good training montage.
Three different directors with different trajectories. And...
So yeah, if she becomes really good and then they have great battles in the end, it would make sense because you see a progression on screen and you see, wow, she kind of sucked and she got tired from swinging a weightless item.
Well, Skywalker style. There's training,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There has to be something that motivates some sort of arc.
Right.
Even in this movie, the arcs are nuts.
They are, and they follow through, and they're convincing. Like, I mean, I don't think that Hayden Christensen acts very well. I think maybe that's my final say, and he didn't have a great script, but that's okay. But he is still able to convey a compelling arc from start to finish, and especially when you go back through the last two movies and you see him, of course, growing up and everything too. But when he jumps into the shoes here and he's going through the inner turmoil of like, well, I want to save the one I love, but also be true to my master and to my teachings and everything. And when the temptations come in, they're not ham-fisted. They're not, slapping the face suddenly. He's dark side. Like he fully gets enveloped. And I mean, I think the movie, it was about 2.5 hours, and they do it tastefully. Like they pace it nicely throughout the movie. Whether it's a little flashback or something like that, or whatever the case may be, moments where he's tempted, moments where he's talking to Palpatine versus the Council, and he's like, well, falling out of trust with the Council. Like it's paced well. Like it's all very intentional, which is nice.
Very much operatic, if you will.
If you will. It feels a little bit, I will say, some of the scenes felt a little bit like either a sitcom or a soap opera, because they'd be in like the big room with like the chancellor's room or something. They're like the chairs and things. The camera's like panning across, and it's like a cut in, and then it kind of like zooms out. And it's just like all of this in one little corner of a room. And it's done so, some of it in front of green screen, that there's not a whole lot of depth of field, and it just feels like weirdly uncanny. I don't know. I got that impression a couple times. And then there's moments where they're fighting on giant lava set pieces, and you're like, no, that isn't the case. But I don't know. Maybe that's just the bad green screening from time to time in this movie. But I don't know. It was a funny thing that I noticed, especially with him and the Chancellor moments, that I'm just like, this really is leading into the opera a little bit, huh? Just kind of doing that. So
Yeah, get the drama. Yeah,
exactly.
Talking about Hayden Christensen, you can definitely tell he was cast for his angstiness, for his anger, because there was definitely a light switch that went off with this movie. As soon as he starts walking up the Jedi Temple, that's when stuff hits the fan, and that's when the movie kicks it back into high gear. From that iconic moment of him rising up to do what he has to do, then on, Order 66 happens. The Mustafar fight happens. It's amazing.
When it kicks it into gear, it just takes a second.
Like, I think if there's 3 big moments, there is from back to front. You have from the moment that he walks up the stairs of the Jedi Temple on. You also have the whole fight with Grievous. And then before that, you have that whole intro scene with the space battle and everything. I think those are the 3 big iconic moments. And they all happen to be fight scenes. It's crazy. Like, there's a whole movie where there's arcs that take place basically via fight scenes.
I would hope so if it's called Star Wars.
It's true. We actually got war.
Star
Wars.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I did admire, we spoke definitely about good and bad CGI, and you mentioned specifically some of the set pieces. It was kind of fun on the bigger screen to be able to figure out and see which ones were still miniatures and which ones were still, or which ones were then CG. And there were a surprising number. It was like a 50-50 on some of it. From what I could tell, there were moments where, it was the water didn't move or something, and the shadows were a little weird. You could just kind of tell, like, no, that's not CG. But it still works great. Like, it's awesome to see a movie. We talked about like Marvel effort, where no, they're just going to brute force CG it. It's cheaper at the end of the day. But there's something really admirable about that. I think that's what Star Wars has continued to do. Maybe not continued now, but
until Rogue One.
Maybe, well, you know what? Maybe it was stagecraft. So in terms of iterations of different types of ways to achieve effects, different types of ways to transport you to that universe. I mean, you had the original movies doing something brand new with like double exposures with lightsabers. You had motion control, which was introduced for those. And so you could do ships that fly by and do green screen passes of those. You come to these ones where, and then of course miniatures for all the sets basically in those. But on this one, where even, I guess, the first Star Wars movie, the whole pod race scene, the like grandstands were miniatures. And then in this one, you're still seeing miniatures, even at the end of this threequel, where they probably have tons of money to throw at this. They probably have all digital scans of all these miniatures anyways, and yet they're still choosing to use them. You can kind of take that to today's Star Wars, like you said, have Marvelized, so they're pretty heavily CG. But even just simple things like modern day lightsabers in the fight scenes are actually LED ones. So you actually get the cast naturally on characters. Or you have like the Mandalorian stagecraft being used for faster production. So you don't have the janky green screen stuff necessarily.
Oh, you're talking about it's not called the Void.
Yeah. So yeah, stagecraft is the LED screen behind actors. And it moves in real time. It's powered by Unreal Engine. And so it's kind of overused now, and you can kind of start to detect it. But I think that using this particular universe to iterate methods of storytelling is cool. And that's one of the things I admire about George Lucas the most, is that even though he peppers in random CG characters in some of his things, and he's a pretty horrible writer, he isn't afraid to just test a new technology, even if it kind of doesn't work. And so like even the green screen work in this movie is pretty stellar for what it is. It's janky at times, but like, damn, you're keying out people who are freaking doing this, and the motion blurs insane. You just do it.
Best example for me is the face replacement on Count Dooku when he's fighting. You know for a fact that that's a body double. You know that that's somebody else who is wielding that lightsaber. And as far as the trade-off goes, again, I said in the beginning, this is a movie of trade-offs.
Yep.
Having the guy perform better lightsaber stunts and then just replacing his face, and it's kind of jank and it can pull us out because we know what to look for, it still sells it so much better. You would rather have somebody who can sell the performance than have a little bit jank.
Yeah.
We'll take that.
Yeah. Well,
you know?
and having the technology of facial replacements for these movies where you're just starting into digital cinema in the early 2000s, as opposed to in the 70s and 80s and things, you didn't have anything close to that. You had what you could physically cut out of film and re-expose onto new film, and maybe print new film. So yeah, you couldn't. You just straight up couldn't. And so I admire that there's so many new techniques that you see in this movie, and that you see in these prequels especially, where it's this really interesting blend. And then kind of the last cherry on top was that even though it was 2005, some of the close-ups of Yoda are phenomenal.
They look amazing.
Some of the straight up CG Grievous, same kind of thing. There is so much intentionality behind his character design that the VFX artist knew what to do. That there weren't questions. There wasn't like a, pull a Marvel where, so the suits now need to be white. Or I don't know if you've heard that with and it might have been Endgame, where all of the Avenger suits, I think they wore actually white.
Those time travel ones.
Time travel suits. Those were all mocap dots throughout the entire thing. They had no clue what they were putting on them until after they wrapped production. And so there's something about these movies where you mentioned the very clear direction of the artistic direction, where you can go and you can look up concept art for days and days and days. And some of the stuff from the original Star Wars movies are timeless artistic pieces of, drawings of these spaceships, of the things going on. And that tracks all the way through these. And then when you get to the more Marvel stuff, sure, there's a big fan base that's generating art all the time, but you just don't see that as much. Whether it's happening or not, I can't really speak to, but it feels like if it is happening, it's not happening to serve anything real. Like anything that you see on the screen, it still feels kind of hodgepodged, or feels kind of, like you said, corporatized.
Yep.
Feels oddly stale or something. I don't know.
Extremely stale.
We can get into that a little bit more, because I'll push against you on like first phase Marvel I dig.
Well,
But
yeah.
second
But
phase
if
Marvel
that's coming
is
off the
just
heels
blah.
of this, I'll put
Right.
that to the side.
Right.
But as Marvel as we know it today,
Yes.
20 years
Correct.
later after this, that's what I'm comparing it to.
No, and that's completely fair.
Yeah, that's why I said post Endgame.
Oh, did you? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I missed that.
Yeah, because post Endgame, it's just
It's a shit show. It's horrible.
it absolutely sucks. And yeah, people give Lucas a ton of crap for these movies, but at the end of the day, there's a guy that, as filmmakers, I feel like we should aspire to be like him.
That's why I admire Robert Zemeckis so much.
Yeah, both of them. They take an idea, they see it all the way through, and for the most part, they're unrelenting in their vision. They stick to it. They have the concept art. They know how to execute it, and they just ride it. They make it happen. And yeah, sometimes there's going to be a couple little jank things, but they understand filmmaking that sometimes you just got to sell something. Make sure the audience feels it, and then move on.
So speaking of selling something, why do you think Lucas sold Lucasfilm to Disney? Do you think he was just done? You think these just took too much of a toll? Or he's like, look, they're clamoring. I need some extra cash. I haven't made a hitter in a while.
If I was in his shoes, I know that there is an answer out there, and I don't know what it is.
I don't either. I'm just
But if
purely
I'm
speculating.
If I'm putting myself in his shoes, I would be sitting back looking at a 6-movie series that just finished the arc and did it backwards.
And he's like, all right.
And you're sitting there and you're basically just looking at your life's work, sort of. He's done other movies and everything, and he's producer, blah, blah, blah. But he's sitting there and looking at it and just like,
I've
there it
said
is.
what I need to say for the characters I need to talk about.
The guys that I cared about, the ones that I wrote originally, like Anakin, who is the main character of all 6 movies.
Luke?
Anakin.
Anakin?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Technically speaking, if you go through 4,
true.
5, and 6,
That's true.
it still revolves around him.
True.
And he still is the chosen one. That's the whole point of episode 6, is that he does bring balance to the Force in the end. It just took a long time.
Right.
So Obi-Wan wasn't wrong to trust him. He just didn't know that it had to take a while and take those pushes and everything from Anakin's son. But anyway, you have a whole 6-movie setup with one character that is the main focal point. You're able to pull that off, do it backwards, starting with your ending and then go to the beginning. I mean, I think it's a little bit of just like, yeah, I'm good to go, and they're offering way too much money.
Yeah.
for me to
Way
say
too
no.
much money.
If I were in his shoes, sitting here and seeing what happened post Lucasfilm sale,
Yeah.
I bet there's a part of him that's kicking himself for selling it.
Did you see his face when he signed the contract in there? I don't know if you've seen the video clip of him signing. He's just pretty funny.
Damn. Okay, so maybe he wasn't
He had-
I've said what I
He
said.
had Disney breathing down one shoulder and Kathleen Kennedy down the other, and he's just like, I guess I'll just do this now.
Whatever. Okay, maybe that's what it was. He was satisfied and then got too much pressure dumped on him.
Maybe.
That could be it.
I have no clue. I just, it's curious when you see the fact that, the company that has destroyed enough IPs then got a hold of this IP that, again, it's debatable. The prequel movies are certainly a hot topic of debate, but like,
I'll defend them.
in terms of the first 6 movies of the Star Wars franchise, that they're generally all revered as masterpieces in some way, shape, or form. And then the mouse gets a hold of them and, kind of what happens there. And so, yeah, I mean, you could attribute it to Marvel, and maybe that's, when they bought Marvel, because I think that was halfway through. Well, that was through like 2 or 3 of their first movies, I think, is when they acquired it. So, yeah, I don't know. Makes you wonder if that's like merchandising or what powers that. They're like, no, we got to get the theme park rights. We got to get the merchandise. We got to, George, you're not doing it, so we're going to buy it from you. Mm-hmm. Actually, it's funny that Sanjit, I think George Lucas put in, I don't remember where I heard this from, but that he has merchandising, or that he has like royalties or something on merchandise indefinitely, that he wrote that in a contract somewhere, and so he's going to get paid out regardless.
Well, that makes me happy.
Him. Yeah. So like, even if Disney goes and just destroys his IP, like if they're selling toys, he's getting profit, right?
Yeah.
I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's something I've heard.
That at least makes me happy, because I was literally sitting here thinking, here comes the mouse, and they're just like, there's something with artist integrity. Let's take that.
Back to work, guys. I love that South Park episode with Mickey, and this exactly what we're talking about. So you should check it out sometime.
I'll
It's
have to watch
hilarious.
that.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
let's see. We've given the note of better writing was something that could absolutely do these a world of good and transform it. Star Wars is obviously iconic no matter what.
Right.
But it could take it just to another level.
Yeah.
If he had known how to write romance, that would probably be the cherry on top.
Just at the very least, it's as clunky now as it was in the first couple movies. So like, he's consistent. I will give him props there. Consistently bad, but consistent. So yeah, the writing.
The writing, I'm not even going to put the CGI as a note. The fact that they were able to pull off so much of this and still have iconic, picturesque scenes in everything and characters that just stick out in your brain. Even though there's some jank in there, I'm not even going to put it as a note, to be honest, because I'm going to take, for whatever I do in the future, I'm going to take that as inspiration. That like, even though there could be something jank, if it sells it better than the technically good shot that doesn't sell it as good,
Right.
stick with it.
Yeah.
That's a better thing. And that's, at the end of the day, what art is about, is figuring out how to get what you're trying to say across. So I'm not even going to critique the CGI in that way.
Well, and this was the end game of 2005. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to critique it for that reason alone, too, that this was cutting edge when it came out. And granted, it's not anymore, but it was. And the fact that we could go see it on a 30-foot screen or whatever the heck size the screen is, and it didn't lose anything because of it, like it wasn't outrageously horrible. Same, props.
So acting. Yeah.
Something to be desired.
Something to be desired. Ewan McGregor wouldn't change a thing in the world.
He's great.
He is Obi-Wan. He's perfect. And it's funny because of this performance, I started watching some of his older stuff. Like, I forget the movie, but it's where he's a drug addict.
Oh, the train one, right?
train
Am I thinking of the right one?
chasing. Yeah, no, you're right.
Train catching, train spotting.
Train spotting.
Train spotting.
That's the name.
That's an interesting movie.
What a
for sure.
trippy movie.
Yeah,
if you thought
yeah.
that Obi-Wan was all good and stuff, go watch Train Spotting.
That's a rough one.
Holy crap. Anyway, he's an amazing actor.
Yeah.
And wouldn't trade him for anything in this movie. Who plays the Emperor? Wouldn't trade
Ian
him.
McDermott is my favorite part of this movie all the time. I was telling you guys this afterwards, that he just understands that this is the hammiest scripts ever, or that it's in kind of a cheesy script, and that he hams it up like melodrama status, and it works so well.
We ironically
I love Ian McDermott.
We just
in
did a
this
bunch of
role.
stuff about saying that Disney sucks and ruins everything, and ironically, we want the Emperor to be a Disney villain.
Yeah.
We want him to be over the top and have this deep, conniving voice and have a plan that's all coming together.
Yep.
You know?
Well, and there's good reason that George was like, he went back to his first whatever movies and replaced the Emperor in those, the one with the weird like bug-eyed whatever. The original one was just this stupid dude in a cape, and then you have Ian McDermott come around and he's the Emperor. He's the OG, the yellow eyes, the weird like forehead butt thing, just to do it. And every time, it's just, this movie's full of memes, but like his in particular are just, ironic. It's great.
And then you throw Christopher Lee on this.
Yes.
What the heck? And of course,
Weird
spoiler,
casting.
he dies right there. I wouldn't say weird casting. I loved him as Count Dooku.
He's good casting, but it's still weird. It's sort of like getting like Sean Connery in this, or like Marlon Brando, where he's someone who's known as like a seasoned theater and film actor, and then he comes in this. But then again, you see him in like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory later and stuff too. So you're like, all right. You're like, he's in Lord of the Rings now. He wants to get into this.
Yeah.
Or post. This would have been post Lord of the Rings.
Post Lord of the Rings. That's why I think he fits Dooku so well, because we don't see him much in this movie. And that's, I think, part of the shock of it, is that he's a plot device and nothing more in this movie.
Yeah.
But in episode 2, where we see a lot more of Dooku,
Right.
Oh, he's perfect.
That's true. That is true.
So I agree. I wish there was more.
Maybe he's a little
of him.
wasted in this movie. Is
A
more
little
what I mean by
wasted,
that.
but that's the character he plays.
That's fair.
And he does
That's
it so well. You just love him and his voice.
Christopher
oh
Lee's
my
dope.
God.
Well, I mean, you even get, this was before James Earl Jones died, so you have him coming back for the short bit for his voiceovers, and you just have so many big people.
You know who I think is wasted probably the most?
Who?
Probably Natalie Portman.
That's fair.
Again, all the love stuff just isn't written well.
She tried really hard.
She tried really hard.
It's just so bad.
It's just really bad.
She's such a useless character in this movie.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate that Padme was just useless, because I think she
can act
was
too.
doing everything that she could, and
Absolutely.
it just didn't work.
She's got some great movies under her belt, too, so clearly it wasn't her problem.
Yeah.
And this was pretty early, but she was in all three, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, she was in all
Gosh,
three.
I need to rewatch the first two. Well, and then you've got Yoda and Frank Oz, and that's awesome. And yeah, like everyone,
Yeah,
I feel
his
like
acting, voice acting,
perfect. Yeah.
amazing.
It's just script was just not good.
Yeah.
So
voice acting and acting was really good, apart from Hayden Christensen, which, again, as
The
soon as he
verdict is
starts,
still out.
he's such a one-sided coin.
Yeah.
You get the good with the bad.
Yeah.
As soon as he walks up those steps, wouldn't take anybody else in that position.
true. That's true.
Pretty much everything before that, except for the space battle in the beginning. Space battle's its own thing.
Right.
But that kind of middle third,
He's
kind of want somebody else to play it.
pretty freaking bad.
Yeah.
And I think he's earned a lot of cred back over the years. I mean, I know that he's kind of a liked character in is he in Andor? What is he in now? He's in some Disney Plus TV show.
Yes.
Is it Andor?
No,
No,
it's,
that wouldn't make sense. It wasn't.
What's her face that was in the Clone Wars show?
Yeah.
I forgot her name.
Whatever show he's in, though, I know that he's kind of been making positive change there, but he's a little bit like Tobey Maguire for me. Where
That's actually a good comparison.
He, on his face, is a pretty horrible actor across the board. He's been in great, iconic movies. What he's in, he's made his own. He's just not a very good actor, but we love him anyways.
Honestly, that's a great way of putting it.
That's kind of the best thing I could say for Hayden Christensen. Is like, I don't know. I've never seen any. I don't think I've seen other movies with him in it. So I'm just going to say that because he's the only one that's not seasoned.
Oh, I just remembered one.
He's a pitfall here.
I haven't seen it, but it's the only other movie that I know Hayden Christensen's in is this one movie where people can like teleport. And you know what I'm talking about?
Vaguely.
I
Let's
don't
see
know
if
the
I can
name,
find it.
but I know that he's in that.
Because I feel like I've seen him in other things. Well, and you kind of spoke to Dooku a little bit. Oh, he's in Jumper. I haven't seen
That's
that
the one
in a
I'm
long
talking
time.
about.
Is
Oh,
that
wait.
Jumper?
Yeah, Jumper. Yes,
yeah.
that is the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, suddenly finds himself in the middle of Agent War. Yeah. That's fake, and that was 2008, so that was on the heels of this. But the rest is pretty much Star Wars and a few odd jobs here and there, it seems.
That probably has to come from his reception, because when these movies came out, people kind of hated him.
Yep.
They kind of hated
absolutely
it. And then
I think it was kind of fair, but
yeah, it's just unfortunate that Star Wars fans, the criticism of Star Wars fans is completely deserved. Star Wars fans kind of suck.
Star Wars fans are nuts.
They're crazy, and they think that they can just absolutely critique everybody without doing anything creative in their whole world.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason why I'm saying, like, yeah, there are faults with what George Lucas did,
Right.
but you gotta zoom out.
Right.
If you don't zoom out on what he did, you're just not even thinking. You don't get to say anything.
Right. I mean, there's a
sorry, but
reason
you
that this is
don't.
an iconic series. I mean, it revolutionized it then, and then when these 3 movies came out, it revolutionized it again, and it made it new and fresh for a new generation. And I think that for us, when Force Awakens and everything came out, granted, they were also their whole can of worms, but the exhilaration that we had when that came out and it was fresh for us as teenagers, to where, with these ones, like we were young enough that we kind of missed the cut on them. We knew they existed. We saw them a little later. But that exhilaration kind of carried to the next series, and it became, it's a reason it became a multi-generational cultural phenomenon. I mean, we even talked about the merchandising stuff too. I remember when these movies came out being so excited to go to McDonald's because there were those collectible figures. There's the Palpatine that you squeezed his head and he squirted water. There was, you could look through the feet of R2-D2 and there was the Viewmaster style thing. I don't remember what everyone did, but they were dope. And I think my sister still has them actually in a Star Wars lunchbox in her
I think
house.
I have the Burger King ones.
Do you?
Yeah, I think
what
I do.
What did Burger King have?
I think it was very similar.
Really?
Yeah, it was like little squatty versions.
Yeah, they were little
Yeah.
Funko Pop style. But yeah, that
were so much
that
fun.
day. They were great.
I remember I had a Revenge of the Sith watch
Did
when
you
I was in
Dude.
St. Columba.
Oh, dude, and we got a cereal box that had a lightsaber spoon.
Those were the best.
Those are the best.
Those are the best.
So come on, this, it's influential. It's influential for a reason. Regardless of the horrendous script at times throughout all the movies, it matters. And I say that, that I am not the biggest Star Wars guy. Star Wars, I generally think is overrated. But I can acknowledge when it's culturally significant and it is for a reason and why, so.
I wouldn't mind also mentioning something that I've had a problem with, and I've vocalized it a couple different times on our podcast, is how frustrating it is to have modern jokes. I put it that way too, because it's not even comedy. Modern jokes in cinema tend to ruin movies.
The unnecessary quips.
Unnecessary and not taking any moment seriously whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie, I found myself, besides the memes, because you mentioned that earlier, this is a meme-heavy
Every time
movie.
it came up, we would chuckle. It was great.
Even when Darth Vader's getting his helmet put on and just he breathes and we hear some dude up in the crowd, he's like, yeah! It's people get really into it.
Yep.
But I knew going into it, there's a lot of memes in there and stuff. And I was trying to just go in thinking about the movie just as a movie.
Seeing it for the first time kind of thing.
There were a lot of funny moments, legitimately funny, that fit the moment, that didn't take away from anything, that helped character rapport. It had the comedy and the fun aspect there too. Mm-hmm. And I think that this probably is what, besides, again, he just can't write romance. No. But I think that this is what his vision originally was. Mm. He still screwed up by putting those CGI animals and stuff in the original 3. Right. But I think that this is what it was, because there were kind of quirky characters in the backgrounds of pretty much every scene, but they fit. They made sense, and they were kind of just walking around, or somebody would be coiling cables when a ship's taking off or whatever, but they just fit the world. They existed. So I guess what I'm getting at, kind of segued, I got off topic a little bit, but the comedic aspect sticks through, I think, with movies until about 2008, 2009, maybe 2010.
I genuinely think Marvel started it. I mean, think Tony Stark. He was the original quippy guy.
Which is funny because Marvel, Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2 even, I just watched Iron Man 2 recently. I think that's what we watched for New Year's.
And it still fairly nuanced in
yeah,
quips. It's
the
not
quips and
heavy-handed.
everything are fun, and the jokes fits, and it's part of his character, and it works and everything. We didn't start seeing that until probably 2015, when Marvel really started getting into gear, and they thought that the jokes were what made the movie. And that's what it was.
The Dawn of Deadpool.
It was Deadpool mixed with the first Guardians of the Galaxy
That's true.
success.
The first Guardians was 100%.
That's when it really changed, and comedy started to ruin movies. And I just really appreciate this era of high quality movies that still feel modern, but have some slight, I hesitate to call them old school, but nailing comedy kind of is an old school thing these days.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, you let the characters be comedic in the way they would be, instead of just being like always having them have to refer to something fourth wall breaking or something that cheapens the moment. I mean, that's the thing I hate about Marvel movies in some of those ways, or comedy more in today, where they don't let a scene breathe. They're so adamant about jumping to a joke right off the bat, where this movie, even with the jokes, go ahead.
That is the number one problem with The Force Awakens and all the movies
yeah.
after it. I've made this point to you guys multiple times. The Force Awakens is so good, so good, until Poe makes his first joke. He just cuts Kylo Ren off at the knees, and there are no consequences. Therefore, your villain, nobody cares about him. Your guy there, he's quippy and he can get away with whatever, so he just kind of has plot armor that isn't even plot armor. It's just... As soon as that joke was made, everything fell apart.
Having Luke chuck the lightsaber over his shoulder. Stuff
Horrible.
like that.
Horrible.
Yeah. Where you not only cheapen the moment, but you just slap a bunch of people in the face. To where a movie like this, like if you even just read it all the way through as a story, it takes itself very seriously all the way through. And the only exception, maybe not the only, but one of the biggest exceptions through the whole prequel series of the detractor of that, the closest to what we're talking about, is Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
And so the fact that this movie, he's shown once at her funeral at the end, and that's it. It has moments of quip, but they're like brotherly banter. They're things that are done with complete seriousness that don't bring you out of the characters or what they're thinking or how they're motivated. And that's it. Like, that's it. There's I think one quip that he makes that, when does he make it? That Hayden Christensen, he does when Grievous does something, and no, it was one of the droids in the background, and he's like whatever or something like that, like just little throwaway things that don't really hurt anything. They're not like a side character that's destroying the rhythm or flow of anything. And so super minimal.
It's
super
like you're playing a video game and some character has something wild. You're like, what?
Yep.
But it's funny and it adds to the experience.
Yeah,
it works,
and it's
basically.
like balanced way back here in the corner. Like,
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't detract from anything. It's not a main character getting cut off at the knees.
it's just a cute little embellishment.
It just works.
Yeah, doesn't take it. Speaking of video games, I'm glad you brought that up. Did you play, was it the original Battlefront?
There was Battlefront and Battlefront 2, which both were PC only, and they both were awesome.
Which one dropped? I remember playing whichever one was the oldest one available for PlayStation.
It'd probably be Battlefront 2.
Battlefront 2?
Yeah, that's the one that I know that I played more, and
I think that's the one that focuses mostly on this movie.
Yeah, focuses on this, and it also, I very distinctly remember that it was at least Clone Wars era, because it had those big-wheeled droids that had like rockets in the middle and stuff.
Yes, I think
and had
so.
the droidicas.
Yeah,
and all
well,
that.
so we talked about taking off like the nostalgia goggles, but that was actually kind of a fun thing watching this again. Is that you don't realize how much like noises and how much, I mean, musical scores, John Williams is phenomenal. So yeah, but yeah, how much noises of things impact. I mean, we all think of like the incendiary device that it was at Boba Fett or whatever sets off. But in this one, like for me, it's the when they're in Mustafa and the things are cratering into the lava and they're or whatever the tone was. And you hear that, and for me, it calls back, moments of the video game. Or there was one where it's of course, him riding that lizard and the weird thing it makes. And you just hear all these things again, and it just like fills you with serotonin suddenly. You're just like, I'm just happy for no reason. And it's cool that there's a movie and a franchise that can do that. as effectively as it is. Maybe that speaks to franchising or to merchandising or whatever, but like, or they caught us when we were kids. But that was nice. That was pleasant to jump back into again. You hear those things, they trip the memories. It's like smelling of something that, you know, reminds you of grandma's pies or something. Like, it just, that was a pleasant memory that you're like, this scene is intense, but like, oh, I remember playing that game. It was so much fun.
Yeah. This, I think I've told you this before, but Miranda actually got me this Lego set for, I think, Christmas last year. Really? And it's just a cool...
Oh, yeah, you did.
Yeah, it's just a cool Lego set. But where I choose to display it in my office is pretty visible. And the reason behind it is because I use this now as a mental memory or a visual memory to make sure that in whatever I do, to do some sound design. It's so easy for us to get the visual and get our spoken audio, but to forget to do sound design. And the pod racing scene, I think, is probably the best example, at least for me, of sound design just working and adding so much. But in this movie, they just kept doing it. It's
true.
And it was so good.
And you have to invent all these sounds.
All of them. And it still fits within the world, and all the machines have different noises, and the lizard has a different noise, and the bending of the metal is different, and then that goes up, and then the music. Sound is so impeccable in this movie. I didn't win anything for sound. If it didn't, I would be shocked.
I don't know if it won anything for anything, but I probably did. Let me find out.
But yeah, the sound in
That's
this...
a fair point. I think the Foley artists need a raise here.
Yeah, definitely.
Doing some good stuff. Let's see. What did it win, if it won anything?
And it was funny, too, because like even the voices of the bigger droids, you know, those silver ones, they could be annoying. Really, those could be annoying voices. And they were just used sparingly enough, and they were just quirky enough, you know, that it was fit. And it was fine, you know? It was kind of funny to have the bigger droids have kind of a funny voice, but whatever.
That's true. That's true. Sorry. So it did. It was nominated for Best Makeup or an Oscar, but otherwise it wasn't nominated or won other Oscars. But it did win an award. John Williams won a ton of awards, so there's that. Good. But ironically, there was a Saturn Award for Best Actor presented to Mr. Hayden Christensen. So that's hilarious.
Can you look up and see who
won?
won?
Nominee. I'm sorry, he didn't win it.
Oh, okay.
But John Williams won Best Music. That's
good. It was
Best science
amazing.
fiction film. Oh, his music is freaking great.
Would you mind looking up and seeing who did win sound design for the Oscars?
For 2000, it would have been 2006.
Technically 2006, yeah. Because I'm really curious what
beat it out?
Yeah, what beat it out. Because there's definitely movies that I think about that kind of shock me. Like we watched, what was it called? Here. Was a Robert Zemeckis movie last year that we watched.
Yeah.
Before we started the podcast.
I liked that movie.
And I remember walking out of the theater. It's one of the first experiences that I've had where I was like, this thing should win this Oscar. It should win editing.
And yet it wasn't acknowledged.
It wasn't acknowledged at all.
That's why I love Robert Zemeckis. He doesn't care. He just makes the movie he wants to make. And I love that.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's unfair.
Yeah, it's totally unfair.
All right, winners and nominees. Best Director.
See, I got to think about. Do you think sound design was a category back then? Because I know the Oscars have changed a lot.
The only recent change, which is going to be implemented this next year, is stunt design. They're adding stunt. I think 2 categories: stunt design and like stunt performer or something.
Cool.
But other than that, I don't know of anything that's changed a whole lot. So it should be.
Yep.
Should be sound design, best visual effects co-winner, best visual effects. Original song, I would hope so. Score winner. This is really horribly laid out. Sorry, Wikipedia sucks. Brokeback Mountain for Ang Lee. Best actor. Writing. Well, it didn't win writing. Foreign film. Sorry, there's a long list here. Documentary, short film. Sound editing. All right. King Kong, Peter Jackson. That makes sense.
Does it?
It does.
Did I watch that movie?
It's like a 3.5 hour King Kong epic. It's I wouldn't say it's a good movie, but it's definitely another spectacle movie.
Do you think that the sound design was more, let me put it this way, more memorable than Star Wars?
Yes, because it wasn't a sequel.
Okay.
I think because this was a sequel, it was inherently disadvantaged.
That
as
would
opposed
be
to King Kong being an
well, yeah,
an
I guess that's a
original
good
on an
point.
established IP,
A
but it's-
remake
readaptation.
versus a continuation.
Well, it's been done so many times, but yeah, his being an original film, yes, on an existing IP, I think probably gives that. Because I know the Academy's not one to give sequel. Like for this year for Dune 2, like Hans Zimmer wasn't nominated for the music because it was a sequel, and they're like, well, because more than 60% of your themes are inspired by the first one, and someone actually like dissected it, and it was like 20% or something. I don't know. So yeah, the Academy's weird.
Did I see something that 2026 2026 will be the first year that the people who are a part of the Academy have to watch the movies? I think I remember seeing something like that.
Has that not been the case?
Right. That's what the person
you're right.
was
They
saying.
have to watch like at least one or something.
At least one.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. You're like,
God.
no, or maybe they don't have to watch any. No, you're totally right. I've heard that before too.
That's
That should be a
mind-blowing,
prereq, guys.
It's-
Like you enter a film fest and they have to watch your movie, or else you can demand your money back typically. So like,
Yeah.
that's the funny thing though. We had a running joke when I was a kid in my family that if it got poor critical reviews, it was destined to be great, like a great movie.
Yes.
Nowadays, I don't know if that's entirely true because I think some critics are actually somewhat right. But generally speaking, like with this, I don't know if this one got good critical reviews, but
Yeah, I
I'm
don't know
guessing
either.
it didn't. But at audience scores, amazing. And so like maybe the Academy should do that. Like poll the audience like 4 months before the ceremony and base it on that. I don't know.
Well, I think it's probably about that time.
Yeah, I don't think we're getting Garrett back.
Yeah, I don't think so either. For those of you who have stuck around and are wondering where he went, it's his girlfriend's birthday tonight.
He's
so
being a great boyfriend.
he's
right
being
now.
an amazing boyfriend. So Lindsay,
Yeah.
remember
he
that.
chose Lindsay over Star Wars, which is saying something.
that's a big move for Garrett.
That's a big move for Garrett. So I guess he won't weigh in on this one. We'll just have to do it ourselves. So,
Yeah. So right now we'll go to our scores. We basically give 5 stars, we give a score out of 5 to each category, and then we combine our scores and we come up with a total out of 5 stars. We post that on Letterboxd. You can find us at Letterboxd at OTW Video. But right now we're going to do our scores, and we'll be back like that. So we just got our scores. Let's start with uniqueness.
Uniqueness. I gave uniqueness a 3.5. It's entirely, the premise of Star Wars alone is unique. Granted, this is the 6th movie in the entry at this point, although it's technically the 3rd. I think that as the movie itself is concerned, it has unique characters, it has unique settings and things. But overall, that's about it. The storyline, it's literally a good and evil story and a guy falling to evil. So in terms of the story and kind of the things that he struggles with, it's fairly average. I think really what holds up the unique side of this movie is the unique characters and the settings in this. And so I'd give it more than average, but not quite all the way. So what you got?
I'll go all the way. I think it's for me, it's a 5. And the reason that it's a 5 on this one is, again, zooming out. I think that, at least for me, I just have to do that with George Lucas. It's a 5 because within the 6 movies, there's nothing like it. This is probably the most unique movie out of all of them, if I had to argue something. I think that some of the settings you definitely have in other places, like I forget the city planet, but that is a carryover. But Mustafar is a new place, and it was so amazing. You don't have these whole crazy government twists, everything, the whole galaxy flipping on its head. Mm-hmm. And the fact, too, that I can't think of another finale to a story arc that's built up over this many movies that stands out this much. Mm-hmm. Endgame is probably the only other one, but that's also different, and I give points to it for being different because it's a cinematic universe. Looks like Garrett will be joining us.
will be.
We
Dude,
just
we
started our
should-
scores.
Really?
Do we want to stop with scores and get back in, get another opinion? here?
Sure. Do you
Is that
want
okay with
to
you?
wish Lindsay a happy birthday?
Yeah, I can wish Lindsay happy birthday.
You should
Happy
sing to
birthday.
her.
What?
You should sing to her.
Right here, on camera. Put me on the spot, huh?
Yeah.
Your life.
That's a good
You're an
response.
adult. You can do what you want.
I already sang to her earlier today.
Aw, very
so I'll just say happy birthday, babe.
Nice.
That's what I'll say.
Well, let's break again and let's reevaluate scores and get him on this.
Yes, for the first time ever, we'll cut a second time. We'll be back like that. So, like I was saying, uniqueness, I would give it a 5. It's just out of the Star Wars franchise, I think that this is probably the most unique movie. I think that they had very unique ideas. The sound was awesome. The characters were great. The arcs that happened within this were done very well. And then that's what I was saying, that there really aren't any other finale movies that I can think of besides Endgame that have to do with a lot of different movies that work. I just can't think of any. I mean, it's like out of a bunch of movies, where does the finale work?
It's like a natural transition that's able to lead into a New Hope.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't think any other movie besides, and it's in the same franchise, Rogue One did a good job. But
Because they all died at the end.
literally-
I loved it because
Yeah.
they killed him. Continuity restored.
But yeah, so that's why I give it a 5. Out of the franchise itself, it's extremely unique, and then out of cinema entirely, I can't think of much else.
And you think it's the most unique out of all of the Star Wars movies?
I think so. I mean,
Really?
you give credit to any of the first things that make something happen, but if you just take all of them and just create an equal playing field, I think it's the most unique. I mean, there's no lava battles on anything else. I think it has probably the best space battle out of any of the movies. You have
Okay.
great characters like Grievous and everything.
Yeah.
It's very unique to me. And
Okay.
the amount of shots that can stick out in my head help me give it a 5.
Interesting.
So I think
Okay.
it is extremely unique.
Nice. Is it my turn?
Yeah, we already did Daniel, so
I gave it a 3.5, just so you know, because it's the 6th, and so like we've seen a lot of stuff like this before, but it had great characters. So it
Yeah.
had moments of uniqueness, but I thought it was pretty in the line with Star Wars.
Yeah. I hate myself, but I gave it a 5.
let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, and it might feel like a cop out, but it's just because it's George Lucas and it's his universe and it's Star Wars. You know, there's no other universe. I mean, there are tons of other like unique universes, you know, cinematically that are out there. And I'm really trying to take my nostalgia goggles off for this, but like, I don't know, man. It's just like Star Wars is just so, it's a universe that's just so vast in general. There's so much to it. And it's just.
Is that regarding this movie, or is that regarding Star Wars in general? How unique was this movie in the canon of Star Wars?
I would still even say a 5.
Okay.
Honestly. Yeah, no. I mean, I can't think of any reason why, for me personally, why it wouldn't be unique. I mean, everything is still there for me. Like, it's still Star Wars at the end of the day, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes
So,
sense to me.
okay.
I was telling Daniel when we were talking earlier that this movie seems to be the best depiction of what George Lucas wanted to do in the originals. He screwed up by putting the CGI crap in the first 3, you know, for the re-releases and everything.
Yeah.
And I think what he was trying to do was to get this world that was shown in episode 3.
Technology and money caught up to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like a cop-out answer, but honestly, it's literally just because it's Star Wars. And, like, there's nothing that, for me, that justifies giving it a lower score than a 5 because it's still all very exciting.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. And that actually
So-
might bring up a good point about like cinematic universes were really, really hot. They've kind of died recently. Same thing with like multiverse type things. And I think it's because the idea of a multiverse makes it not unique. In it being a multiverse, it can't be unique because it's just one of infinite universes. Whereas Star Wars is just Star Wars.
Star Wars is Star Wars, baby.
Is.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so I agree
Unless
with
you're
you.
the newest ones.
Very true. There are 7 movies in the Star
Yes.
Wars franchise. We've talked about
I would
this.
agree. There are 7.
6 and Rogue One.
Indeed. Oh, you don't have to change my mind. I'm not huge on Star Wars anyway.
Okay, all right. I would say 8 then.
Which one?
I count The Force Awakens. I count The Force Awakens. Everything after that's no.
Yeah, I won't argue with you too hard because I enjoyed the premiere. But anyway,
Yep.
yeah.
All right, what you got for cinematography, Matt?
Cinematography, I gave it a 4.5. I was really thinking about it, and the amount of beautiful shots, the amount of shots that really helped the story, that put iconic images into my head that have stuck with me for 20 freaking years. If that doesn't deserve a very high score on cinematography, I don't know what does. They did such a good job of shooting it. Everything was beautiful. I think the only reason that I gave it a half point off, 4.5 instead of a 5, was because I guess maybe the romance scenes, again, those just were the weakest link in all of the Star Wars movies was the romance stuff. And those were shot very blandly. So it gets so many points, but then they're taken, that half point is taken away for those sections. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Cool. Am I going next? Sure. I believe I gave it a 4. Let me check. I did give it a 4. Yeah, like, same here. Like, for 2005, especially, like, I'm not sure if we're adding, like, just the whole CGI aspect in general to cinematography at all.
Definitely if you want to, yeah.
It's whatever the visual image is on the screen.
Okay. I mean, camera work to me was fine. Like, all the camera shots were, like, I didn't see any problem or any issue. Revisiting this 20 years later for a movie that was made in 2005, like, I was very surprised at how well the CGI, for me personally, held up. I mean, there were some things I could nitpick on in regards to that, but overall, like, there weren't any glaring issues or problems. And you were alluding to the space battles earlier, especially in the opening scene. That whole battle over Coruscant was gorgeous.
I forgot that it was in this movie too. So as soon as we started up there, I was like,
yeah,
I forgot about this.
Right.
It was yeah, you're right. It was gorgeous.
Yeah, honestly, it was. So I was very surprised. And yeah, like I said, no gaping holes from what I saw throughout the entire thing. There wasn't anything that stood out, and I was like, oh, that didn't look good. So that's why I gave it a 4. So
definitely.
I gave it a 3. 2 words. Hair light.
Oh.
So this is not, I wouldn't say that this is a bad thing towards the DP or anything like that. I think it's just the inherent risk and pitfall of having to shoot 85% of your movie on a green screen. And it's that if you're going to get high action and you're going to get clean keys, you have to light those suckers from behind. You have to light the people from behind. And every single time, I actually started counting at one point and then I lost count. It was like 30 something. The number of shots that were hair light only for the sake of a green screen key. And I know that's me just being super technically nitpicky. But there were certain shots where that in correlation with a background that didn't actually taper off with shallow depth of field, like it was just blurry, like flat blurry, or moments where it had no blur at all, or moments where their lighting was drastically different from the background, and it completely yanked me out from the convincingness of what was happening in the scene. Again, 2005. I'm happy to eat the bias, but there were certainly lots of other movies that have done it fine in that era, or that have been less blatantly using green screen. And so I think that that's just one of those inherent things that if you're going to excel with cinematography, you need to be even... They were super clever with their green screening, but you've got to be even more artistic about how you use your green screen to minimize those types of artifacts that you notice as a viewer, where every person has a hair light because you want to get all of the clean key from their hair. There's no other way to do it unless you blast the back of their head with light. It's just going to taper off. Moments where Ewan McGregor was talking with the weird guy with the cool teeth.
On Upatow?
Yes, that guy. He's cool. I love him. He's one of those that stands out in my head because he's creepy. He had this like super fine, like soft mask all around him, and him throughout that entire scene, the angles that they chose were really weird because it didn't flatter that key at all, and he was lit really poorly, and there were moments where I was just like, the lighting is not helping. It's not that the camera placement's bad or the camera direction is bad. Like, there's a lot of shots that are very intentional in the camera direction and how they set up the scenes. But I felt like the lighting really was a disservice at the end of the day. That and I don't know if people are going to scream at me for this. The freaking wipe cuts and the checkerboard cuts and the circle cuts, I've hated them since the beginning.
I was going to say, that's Star Wars, though.
I know,
that's like iconic, quintessential
just because they started
Star
doing
Wars.
it doesn't mean it's good or it's right.
Are you going to get rid of the crawl at the beginning too, Daniel?
Well,
it serves the story. The reason being is sorry, go ahead.
The reason being is it doesn't let you linger
on a scene. So when Vader is Vader and he screams and he's there and he's in anger, then you get this like hoop cut. You're like,
Yeah.
okay. So that just kind of cheapens that.
It is kind of it's a little campy.
A wise
it's a little
teacher
campy.
in middle school once told me, just because PowerPoint has it doesn't mean you have to use it. And that, I think, kind of applies to Star Wars.
Okay.
I don't like it. I'm fine. Trash me in the comments for it. I
don't-
Whatever.
I don't know if you guys talked
don't
about
like it
this
personally.
earlier, but talking about like the wipe cuts and everything like that. Yes, the time they chose to do those and those transitions were very off-putting and weird.
For this movie or
For
White Cuts in
for
general?
this movie.
For this movie?
For this movie specifically. Like just when I was watching it, I noticed where I was like, why did we choose a wipe cut? I get it's Star Wars.
Well,
but
and I was
it's-
thinking about why did you choose the specific wipe cut? That's what I
Right.
was thinking about.
Okay.
Why did we do a checkerboard on this one?
Oh,
But
okay.
a
I
circle,
didn't get that
no,
into
that's
it,
that.
but
But that's how much it took me out every time it
okay.
happened.
That makes
that's
sense.
kind of the point.
Okay, yeah.
So what pacing things did you see with them? I'm curious, as someone who is
Well,
a little more for the wipe cuts than I am.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like I said, it's iconic, quintessential Star Wars. It doesn't bug me too much, but maybe it was just the transitions in general, and like taking the wipe cuts out of this. Maybe this is something we can come back to later.
Yeah.
In fact, I think we're going to come back to it later.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
So
All right.
we're gonna
So there you go. That's my
Okay.
ding for cinematography. I'm just biased in that way because I've never liked them, but this one used them, and there you go.
Okay.
So all right, what you got for story?
So for story, I gave it a 3.5.
Okay.
I think it's a good story. I think it's a good story. It's just a very simple fact that, again, the romance is effectively not there. And it just loses so many points for that because that's his whole motivation to go to the dark side and to become Darth Vader, and all these things happen. And it's effectively put on this kind of shaky foundation. You know, you can't have all of this stuff happen that sets up the next 3 movies that started it all. And you can't have that happen with just like, I think they're in love. You know, just because they
Yeah.
hug doesn't mean that we feel it.
Right.
And that's what was missing. So
Right.
the story, 3.5, because it's a great story and there's betrayal and the fighting's awesome and all these things. And the power struggles. I'm one of the few people who really likes the politics in Star Wars. I don't know why. It just, I just like
it's
it. So the power struggles were cool and all that, but mainly the romance, just, you don't feel it at all. So therefore it's kind of non-existent.
To me, it's like a toxic high school romance. Like that's what it feels like to
That's
me
fair.
the entire time.
Yeah.
So,
So what'd you
it's
get
it's
it?
it's like the overly like PDA couple in like the hallway.
Oh.
That's like, yeah. So that's
Hey,
the vibes.
it's
That's
like,
that's
let me
the,
talk,
That's
dude.
the vibes. It's
Get off
giving
me.
me. Am I going now?
Yep.
Yeah.
I gave it a 1.
Ah.
I gave it a 1. That hurt. That hurt. I'm pretty sure this is my first time seeing Revenge of the Sith since, I don't know, sometime prior to 2015. Probably sometime in middle school, honestly. So before high school, yeah. And yeah, I don't know, man. Like, there were just so many glaring holes in this movie. So many points where I'm like, how did we get here from episode 2? And maybe the problem is I need to watch episode 1 and 2 again before I watch episode 3. That seems like the most logical thing. But it really came down to like a lot of points being like, how did we get here? Nothing made sense to me. And it was just the romance. And you're right. That's Anakin's only real motivation to go into the dark side. But it was exciting, but the story in general, like just standalone itself, felt like just one massive slog. So I was just like, oh God. I was groaning a lot throughout it. So, and I get it's iconic. I get it's episode 3. I get a lot of the lines are very quotable and very memeable. I get that. But it didn't stick for me like it did 20 years ago as a kid, honestly. And, yeah, that's what I got. It was kind of a massive eye roll, and that hurts for me to say. So.
Well, oh, how the turntables, because I gave it a 4.
What?
The reason being is it is genuinely the one Star Wars movie and pretty much all the Star Wars movies that I can actually remember story beats from. Like, actually remember kind of where things are going and why. And it was always my favorite as a kid, certainly for a lot of other reasons too. But even then, it kind of enamored me. It was certainly a slog. The first third, I didn't remember being as slow as it was, but it was. Or the middle like,
section.
After,
Yeah.
But generally speaking, like, I mean, Matt mentioned kind of a shaky foundation. I think that there was more done in this first and second to kind of foster that upbringing a little bit more. That I took as a pinch of salt towards this to be like, I don't entirely remember what all was established in those first two movies. And so I'm going to acknowledge that things were established enough for us to understand their relationship, as poorly acted and written as it was. I totally agree with you there. But then overall, like, it's setting up 3 more movies, which are the OG. And I think it does fine. I think it achieves it. I don't think that everything's watertight by any means, like, at all.
Yeah.
But I think that if you do this kind of zoom out approach that Matthew mentioned before, and look at just it as a whole, it's a very easy story to follow. Like, even though it has politics and romance and all that in it, romance, loose term there, like, it's easy. Like, it's not, you're not getting stuck in like huge mind. Like, say you watch like Dune, and you are stuck in all of the new terms and all of the new people and all of those things. This isn't that. This is very much
it's simple
not
and easy to
sanitized,
follow,
but much simpler.
Yeah. Okay.
arc. So that is solely where it was. And then is it a good story? I think that it's, especially when it catches up to itself with the Order 66, and then it really takes off. Then you're like, okay, I'm in it now. It takes a while to get there, but for me, when that takes off and you actually see Star Wars get brutal,
it's dark. It's dark.
I like that
for sure. No,
So
I agree
that's
with that.
where it gets more props for me. Weirdly enough. So
Okay.
Yeah, especially Order 66.
I wish I was here for earlier in the podcast so I can give more of my
More of the
thoughts
context.
regarding that.
Well, that's okay. Give us some thoughts on execution.
Yeah, sure thing.
how did it do?
Yeah, I give Execution a 3. And coming back to the whole wipe cuts and transitions really quick, I feel like transitions happened where like there should have been more added to a scene. In a lot of different cases. Like they cut at like very awkward moments where I feel like there should have been a lot more.
Are you
here.
asking for an extended cut?
Yes. I need the extended cut of Revenge of the Sith. But yeah, where I just feel like more, I don't know, like there was more to the scene and it wasn't there. And it was just like, the one that sticks out in my head was when Yoda's on Kashyyyk and like they're preparing for the battle against the droids, like Yoda and the Wookiees and everybody. And like Yoda's shot at and like it's there for like a second and then it just wipe cuts.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what was that all about?
To me, it just feels cheap. Like, it feels like there's no intention between
was
the
that
next
for?
scene, and then it often cuts to an exterior of the next location, so it feels a little bit like a Family Guy segment. And so you're like da 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 da. It shows their house, and then they're in the house, and then it shows the freaking bar, and then they're in the bar, and you're like, okay, that's how it reads to me, which is why it cheapens
really
it for me.
funny.
But so is Execution? Sorry, what did you give Execution?
I gave Execution a 3. Like I think it was fine. It did its job. I mean, overall, it was an enjoyable experience. Like especially the latter half of the movie. The latter half, of course. Well, the beginning and the opening scene and the last chunk of the movie sticks out a lot in my mind. So, and I think the lightsaber battles, especially Anakin and Obi-Wan's, were just. I mean, that whole entire scene on Mustafar. It's like. Especially as a kid, that's never left.
No.
20 years
And it's
later,
still
that's
badass
never
now.
left. It's still badass. I don't care how much they're twirling their lightsabers around before they clash. I love it. I love it. The cinematography is amazing. The fight cinematography is amazing in that scene. I don't care what you say. So
Cool.
Yeah, I think overall it was fine. And then like beginning scene's great, ending scene's phenomenal. The whole middle portion of the movie, it's like you did your job. Congratulations. So.
I'm with you there. I gave it a 4, and it's because it did what it needed to do. I think that it set up the next movies as it needed to, and that at the end of the day, even with a poorly written script, it executed it.
Hey, Bubba.
And it executed it, I think, as well as it ultimately could have, even if the script was better. And if the script was better, that was kind of the thing we talked about most, was that the script was really the thing that failed this movie.
Oh, yeah.
That even if the script was infinitely better, I think it still would have executed just fine. Like, it still would have been a fairly equal execution. It would have been more enjoyable, and I think ultimately then better executed. But it did what it needed to do,
Yeah.
and I think
100%.
it did it fine. So what do you got for immersion?
Well, my execution was 3.5.
Oh, did you not do it? Oh, shoot. I'm sorry.
Very good.
Sorry. Go.
Basically, all the same reasons. It did what it was supposed to do. It was definitely above average. And again, anytime a movie leaves me with that many iconic scenes, that iconic images, iconic lines,
Sure.
Did something right.
it did stuff very, very right.
Sure.
Again, where it loses out on the points is mainly the romance and everything. That's going to be a repeating segment. It's that important.
It's so bad.
It is. It actually is. It's frustrating.
So if that's to say you were perfectly immersed, right?
A 3.
In the romance?
It was a 3, to be honest. It was above average immersion, but there were definitely times where it was like, okay, yeah, let's get on to the next thing. I want more lightsaber battle, please. We got a lot of wars in our Star Wars, which is great.
Yeah.
Very happy
Yeah.
about that. But yeah, the immersion was definitely more like a 3. And that this is totally just a judgment call of feeling. I don't really need to talk much about the backing up of it, but it was a 3. It wasn't more than that.
Okay.
Sure. What you got for immersion?
4. 4. Yeah.
Pretty engrossed.
Pretty engrossed. I mean, the story, like I said, I think the story overall is like the script, like you were talking about. I think it's just ass. I think it's bad. I really do.
Yeah,
it sets
bad
up
writing.
the original trilogy, really well, and you get Anakin's one sole motivator to going to the dark side. But overall, I mean, I was hooked. I mean, like, it looks good.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Definitely sounds good.
Talked about that. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, I don't know, man. Again, I'm trying to take off the nostalgia goggles, but I mean, it is Star Wars. It is Star Wars at the end of the day, and I don't know. I just have a sweet spot in my heart for it. So it's it was there for me. I was focused throughout the entire movie. So yeah.
I gave it a 3.5. It is, you kind of mentioned the kind of balance of the good immersion. This movie is definitely up heavier in big action scenes and in iconic characters and things than
definitely.
especially the first two. And so for me, even just looking at it like, well, if a 2.5 is halfway there where it's balanced between that and it's not really that immersive, but then it's really immersive, so it's kind of whiplashy. This definitely reigns on the more immersive, like especially when it really takes off on the latter half of the movie. You're really engrossed in what's going on, and it keeps that pressure up pretty much till the end of the movie, outside of maybe the funeral scene or something.
Yeah.
Where it slows down for a second, but it essentially pushes you right up to the end.
Yeah,
of this, which is
it
kind
does.
of nice. So
Yeah.
3.5.
Nice.
Gary-
I didn't.
oh, sorry,
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna say I didn't. Did you guys mention John Williams' score?
Yeah.
So far in this,
That
you
it
just
was
mentioned it briefly. I mean, it's just.
Iconic as always.
It's iconic, man. I mean, you can't not get hyped for the soundtrack. I mean, most of all of the songs, like the score that was used for this movie, I have in my head. It's literally
The
just there.
motifs
It's
are
there in my head.
strong.
So
And
strong.
He drives them in with every character that shows
Yeah.
up. He brings their motif up, and it's perfect.
Yeah. So
It's
I
such smart filmmaking.
had to mention that. So
Good.
it's
Good.
I
John
had
Williams
to.
deserves it,
Yeah.
man.
Garrett, how emotionally connected were you?
I gave it a 3. I know the way I said
John Williams to that.
John Williams.
It was all Johnny.
It was all John
He's
Williams.
the one who kept me in. Honestly, fair.
Honestly, that kind of.
Yeah, kind of. I'm entirely with you so far.
So, yeah, I would say, yeah, John Williams, does big things in that department. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, the movie's like just so campy, and it's just.
You don't relate to the angst of Hayden Christensen?
I mean, as a teenager, I probably could have.
Is that why it stuck with us so much?
And did we talk about Hayden Christensen's acting, or did we not?
We did. But what do you have to say about it? That it sucked?
No.
Oh, that you loved it?
I like it.
Oh.
I'm on board for Hayden Christensen in this role. I am. So, but we can, again, I wasn't here, so we could talk about it another time.
Okay. That's good to know.
But as far as emotional connection goes, I'm like, man, it's like, okay, cool, you're going to the dark side. Oh my God, you're Darth Vader.
Right.
Like, I don't know, man.
That's fair, dude. I gave it a 3 too, and that it kind of reigns true with Star Wars for me in general. That I acknowledge its significance. There are themes in it that are certainly relatable and
Yeah.
important,
I don't.
But at the end of the day, I just don't really care that much, and so like it's above average. Like I get it, it's cool, but like it's a 3.
I just
It's
don't.
the same as the rest.
Yeah, I don't want to be a broken record or anything. Like it is Star Wars, but it's like the only character I think I truly care about in that entire movie was Obi-Wan. I think for me personally.
It's fair.
But everyone else, I mean, it's like, I think Hayden Christensen did a good job as Anakin, but he's just, so angsty and whiny throughout most of the movie. I'm just like, stop. And then his scenes with Padme are just like, stop. Like,
That's
just,
that great acting on.
At least
display
he
for
didn't
ya.
mention anything about sand in this movie.
yeah.
I don't like sand.
Yeah. No. If we were talking about episode 2, I'd rip Hayden Christensen's acting, but we're talking about episode 3, and I thought it was better. So
Certainly the best of the 3, but yeah. All right, what we got? What's our total,
Well,
Senor?
my
The
emotional
end
connection.
Yeah.
Wow, dude, I'm so sorry.
wrong with you?
I don't know, man. I'm distracted by the cat.
Yeah, I would give it a 4. I think that I was more emotionally connected than I expected. I knew that I would be in it for the hype and how awesome the battle scenes are, the lightsaber fights, the space, all of that stuff. The Star Wars got me excited and everything. But as far as the betrayal, and I've been dogging on the romance this entire time, and I still stick to it. But there were a couple lines of dialogue, especially towards the end, between them that like actually kind of hit me. Order 66 will always give me chills every single time that I watch it. And that's
Interesting.
why it gets really high marks on emotional connection.
Interesting.
Because again, that's something that, the snap and Endgame, we all know they're coming back though, and that's why that doesn't work as well. But in this one, we know that all of them are gone. We know that this is the table's flipping on its head. We know that this stuff matters.
Right.
So that's why I'm emotionally connected to it.
I will bring up a big emotionally connected point was when Anakin goes to raid the Jedi Temple with all the clone troopers. And I mean, seeing this movie as like an 8-year-old when I saw this in theaters, Anakin rolling up to the younglings, talk about dark
talk
and
about
heavy and be brutal, something like completely unexpected, like Anakin killing kids. That even still, I will agree with you where it's like, that still hits to this day. Where it's like, he like, his wife's pregnant.
His wife's pregnant. And he's murdering these
children. Yeah.
I
And
still
that cute
refuse.
kid.
I still refuse to believe with the small size of that baby bump that 2 4-month-olds came out of her.
I was thinking the
But
exact same thing.
that's just,
The exact
you just
same
mentioned
thing.
baby bump.
Thinking the exact same
she's
thing.
like, I'm pregnant. And you're like, are you though?
Are
And they're
you?
like, twins that are both
And then she
4
has like
months ago.
immediately, it doesn't make any sense.
You're like, okay, sounds good.
That goes into the whole story
Yeah, I was
thing
gonna
for
say
me.
that's-
That goes into
that's-
the whole story thing for me.
Yeah.
I was going to mention something about, what was I going to mention? Having to do with like the brutality. Did you guys talk about like the random point in the movie? I think it was during the Jedi. No, it was during the Mustafar scene when Anakin goes and kills the Separatists. Where like it's that one shot. Oh, we gotta wrap it up. Yeah. Okay, just really quick. Where like Anakin's eyes are like an amber yellow, and then it comes back and they're not.
We didn't talk
amber
about it, but
yellow anymore.
yeah. The moments
Well, they
where
were
he,
yellow when he was all burnt and everything too.
But like this but this is like before though. I don't know. I just thought that
Mustafar?
was weird.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, when he's
After he
in
kills
there.
the Separatists.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's that shot, close-up shot when his eyes are like an amber
Yeah,
yellow.
oh, through the cape,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Through
the whole
hood.
thing about people being actually Sith. That's a distinct feature of Sith.
Is it? Mm-hmm. Huh.
And the reason you don't see it very much is because, as it goes, there are only 2 Sith in existence ever.
Do they mention that
Yeah,
in the movie?
not
I
in
don't
this
think they
one,
do,
but I
'cause
think
I
they
didn't
do
know
in
that.
other movies.
Really,
Oh.
only 2 Sith ever.
Yeah,
That's something I never-
that
Is that
one
a
I
Clone
know
Wars
is in
thing?
the movies. Yeah,
It was in the movies.
it
at
was.
some
No, I'm
point?
pretty sure that's in the original trilogy. That there are 2. There is the Master and the Apprentice. No more, no less. That is what the Sith are.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah, and that's a
Dang.
characteristic.
Rewatch
And the
everything,
reason it's weird and jarring is because we don't see it, but that's a part
Well,
of
it's
that.
weird and jarring, and it's like I don't know. I wish it was more, because to me that's like a
Used more
continuity. That's like a
intentionally.
continuity error. Like not knowing that, where it's like, oh, his eyes are just yellow, and then they go back to not being yellow.
Well, I don't think they go back, but they show that.
Oh, they do. I mean,
Yeah?
no, they do. I mean, they go back to being like his regular eye color after
Oh,
they show up
that's-
for being yellow.
Right, because
So I'm like, why?
that whole argument with Obi-Wan and everything.
That
yeah.
happens between,
So maybe
yeah.
it's the rage coming through.
Well, and then the rage comes back when he gets burnt and everything too. At the
'Cause
end,
then he has the
he's
yellow eyes
yellow.
then.
Okay, all right,
Anyway.
yeah. Anyway, that's all I
good
wanted
to
to
know.
say. I wish I was around more for
you're all good. You're all
the podcast episode, but
So that's okay. Well, we got a total.
Yeah. So, Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, we have given you some notes, and your total score out of 5 is a 3.58333322. That's
To be
a
precise.
3.5 out of 5 stars.
that's not bad.
That feels very appropriate, to be honest.
Yeah,
say
that's
so.
fine. Yeah,
We were talking earlier, especially with the romance, that if they had nailed that, this would be a lot higher.
If someone
This
other than
really
George
would.
Lucas wrote the script, or maybe did the final revision.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
the romance was bad.
Grain of salt, zooming out, understanding what one man was able to do with a vision.
Yeah.
to
You,
write,
you gotta
direct,
give props.
and produce.
You gotta
Yeah.
give props to George Lucas, man.
You have to.
100%.
We give him crap on his writing, but almost everything else,
He created this universe at the end of the day.
Yeah.
man's a genius and he pulled it
Well,
off.
and he's a writer for like everything Star Wars, anyways. So, like, if you look up his IMDb credits, like all writing for Clone Wars and everything too. So, doing something right. So, all right.
Yeah,
Well, that wraps
well-
it up. Thanks for sticking with us, guys.
Yeah, thanks for sticking with us. If you have movies that you would like us to watch, put that in the comments. Go ahead and subscribe. Share this with a friend who has some hot takes. Garrett, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah.
Your last one in Colorado.
Hey.
Do you have anything that you would like to say to the people?
Go Colorado, man.
There we go.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one and have a good night.